Hello, you absolute legends. When it comes to doing incredible, mind-bending things in video games, it's hard to top the wacky group of gamers known as speedrunners. Even as a speedrunner myself, I am always blown away by the types of things they do, whether it's demonstrating incredible skill or by the way they break apart games and invent amazing strategies. Honestly, I just don't understand how a lot of the glitches speedrunners use are found in the first place. Many of them require nothing short of genius in order to be crafted. However, sometimes speedrunners get so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they never stop to think about if they should. And as a result, they end up devoting unthinkable amounts of hours into challenges that to the regular everyday person seem utterly insane. Probably the best example is the effort to collect every star in Super Mario 64 using the least amount of A presses. This hilarious pursuit has led to some of the most creative and interesting strategies in video game history, which is pretty funny when you consider that the goal is completely arbitrary. Sometimes even the very same speedrunners that commit to these tasks are left asking themselves the question, why? And the speedrun we will look at today is the perfect example. Doom is easily one of the most influential games ever when it comes to speedrunning, and Zero Master is arguably the greatest Doom player of all time. But after completing one particular speedrun, Zero Master could do nothing else but sit back and say to himself, what an absolute waste of my time this has been. In today's video, we will take a look at one of the funniest Doom speedruns ever performed. And it's also time for another friendly Doom competition, so if you think you can beat my time and want to win a prize, make sure to stick around until the end of the video. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, before we go on, this video is sponsored by a brand new mobile game called Bloodline, Heroes of Lithas. Bloodline is a card-based RPG that contains a bunch of elements that make it much more interesting to play. Obviously, you do collect champions and have them battle through a massive campaign and against other players, but you also need to build up your kingdom and even have your champions get married to create super champions. Bloodline contains different clans, each with their own unique look and feel. For example, this is the clan of Karg, and you'll get one of these bad boys for free as part of your login rewards. Another cool clan is the lineage of werewolves called Lycanis. There is also an entire companion mechanic where you need to wine and dine partners from different clans in order to produce heirs. The more you charm your companions, the more powerful your offspring will be. And you can even switch the genders to your preference. Best of all, Bloodline Heroes of Lithas is completely free to play, and all you need to do is click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And if you use my gift code, you'll also receive 1 champion token and 100 diamonds. The game is really fun, so definitely go and check it out. In the past few years, we've covered some absolutely classic Doom speedruns, and the reason these speedruns connect with so many people is because we've all played these amazing levels ourselves, and there's something special about seeing someone go through them with such precision and grace. When you hear about someone spending 100 hours grinding the first level of Doom, Hangar, it kind of makes sense. The level is as iconic as it gets. But the world of Doom speedrunning isn't just limited to the official releases of Doom that most of us have played. The modding scene is enormous, and on WOD Archive there have been 93,000 WODs uploaded, each containing one or more custom levels. The Doom modding scene has a history so expansive that it would be difficult to even scratch the surface. Many of these WODs play like you would expect, as they attempt to capture the classical Doom feel. And historically, there have been custom WODs that were so impressive that id Software turned them into official releases, as was the case with Final Doom. But some WODs became popular just for being bizarre, and there is probably no better example than the infamous WOD called Nuts. Nuts was created in 2001 by the modder BPRD, and in 2003, Doomworld placed Nuts in its list of top 10 most infamous WODs. Doomworld described the WOD as follows. Think of a Doom map with a large amount of monsters. Now double that number. Now double it again. Now make all of those into cyber demons. Now add that same number, but make them all archviles. Okay, I think you get my point. Nuts is insane. And that's basically the only thing that made Nuts interesting. It's 2 large square areas filled with a ton of monsters. How many exactly? Well, in the first room, there's 196 former humans, 219 former sergeants, 1,426 imps, 1,395 chain gunners, 1,400 demons, 615 Baron of Hells, 237 Arachnotrons, 217 Hell Knights, and 1,758 Revenants. In the second area, we have 1,272 Archviles, 237 Mancubi, 795 Spider Masterminds, and 848 Cyber Demons, giving a grand total of 10,617 monsters. Despite the sheer amount of enemies, it's a relatively easy map to complete if you know how to do it. Fighting the monsters head-on is a lost cause, as even with perfect ammo management and the best possible luck, there just isn't enough ammo to kill everything. It's not even close. They honestly may as well have not given you a gun at all, as usually it won't help. Instead, the idea is to grab invulnerability spheres and run around the monsters, trying not to alert them as much as possible. The second large area is full of archviles which can blast you into the air. You would think this would be helpful, but one of the quirks of Doom programming is that enemies have infinite height, so you can't jump over them. The only way through is to get lucky and look for small gaps that may or may not appear. If the enemies crowd around you and block your path, which happens most of the time, there is simply nothing you can do. These days, the idea of creating a map with 2 rooms and a ton of monsters doesn't sound very interesting, but I guess when this map was created, the concept was a bit more novel. One of the appeals, if you could describe it as that, was the fact that in 2001, this map was basically unplayable. The insane amount of monsters was too taxing for computers, so the frame rate took a massive hit. The simplicity of the map, combined with the stupid amount of monsters and lack of computing power to play it well, basically made this map a joke. Modern source ports do allow nuts to run at a smooth frame rate, which is likely why we've seen the speedrunning record lowered dramatically in recent years. Within weeks of the map being released, the player Espy set a time of 1 minute and 3 seconds. This would last 10 years before being lowered by Neuro to 42 seconds. 2013 saw Memphis achieve a 37, which would last another full 7 years. Over the past 2 years, the record has been mainly lowered by Hurricane Jr. with an appearance from Tidri. The record currently stands at 32 seconds set by Hurricane Jr. on the 6th of March 2021. The strategy is simple. Run around the enemies in the first room, then try to run through the monsters in the second room to reach the exit switch. Strategically, the run contains no real skill and relies entirely on monster RNG. Almost every single time, you will get blasted into a corner by archviles and get surrounded with no chance of escape. Okay, so beating the level is one thing, but UV speed, which is the category for simply finishing the level as fast as possible, isn't the only category speedrunners compete in. UV max is also very popular. This is the category where you need to collect every secret and kill every monster. Nuts doesn't have any secrets, so getting 100% is pretty easy here, but killing every monster is a different story. On the Doom Speed Demos archive page for the Nut Squad, the UV max record stands at 4 minutes and 26 seconds. But it also shows something that you don't normally see, which is a percentage of the kills, which was 92. Basically, Doom speedrunners realized pretty quickly that it wasn't possible to kill everything on the map, so they settled for a simple rule. As long as everything except for the cyber demons were killed, it was considered a successful UV max run. In order to demonstrate just how impossible it is to get 100% kills, we can do some simple math. The map contains 848 cyber demons, each having 4,000 hit points. The level gives us 2 main weapons to use, the plasma gun and the BFG 9000. The BFG has a much higher damage output, so that's what we'll be using. The actual damage of the BFG is random, but the maximum theoretical damage per blast is 4,280. The level contains 31 energy cells, each having 100 ammo. Combined with 40 ammo you get when picking up the BFG and plasma gun plus the backpack, this gives us a total of 3,200 ammo. This is enough ammo for 80 BFG blasts, which would enable us to kill a grand total of 85 cyber demons, leaving us with a mere 763 to deal with. But remember, this is using the theoretical maximum damage output, which won't happen. And we completely neglected the first room of the map, which houses a ton of monsters as well. The alpha males out there may be yelling at their computer screens, shouting, "Who cares if you don't have ammo? Just punch them to death." If you did want to take that route, assuming every single punch connected and you somehow didn't die, you would be able to kill them all in several days. The only person I've ever heard of that might have the skill to pull something like this off would be Todd Rogers in his prime, who was well known for his totally legit and definitely not fabricated multiple-day marathons. But unfortunately, since the invention of proof standards, he's been oddly quiet, so I don't think we can rely on him to get this done. In reality though, punching these cyber demons would probably take weeks, as you would need to spend most of your time avoiding rockets, and that if it's even possible to survive that long. There is one other factor that we do need to consider though, which is monster infighting. Doom monsters will try to kill each other, so if we do let them have it out, how many are left standing? The section with the cyber demons contains 795 spider masterminds, 240 mancubi, and 1,272 archviles. This sounds like a lot, but in practice, they get wiped out almost instantly. Archviles and mancubi have a fraction of the health of cyber demons and stand no chance. Spider masterminds have a decent amount of health, but they fire a hit scan weapon, which means that it can injure other spider masterminds, so they end up annihilating each other in the crossfire. The splash damage that archviles create also injures other archviles, mancubi, and spider masterminds. Cyber demons are not only too strong for their competitors, but given that they can't harm each other, they have a massive advantage. When all is said and done, the other monsters hardly put a dent in the cyber demon count, with hundreds upon hundreds left standing at the end. The task seems insurmountable. But there was one man, one legend, who dared to dream. And that legend was none other than Zero Master. Zero Master had a plan, and if it worked, it should be able to get the job done in around 6 hours. It seemed good in theory, but unfortunately in practice, things didn't go quite as expected. Now, the speedrun we are about to look at is tool-assisted. It's basically a theoretical demonstration of what might be possible. But the funny thing is the lengths that Zero Master needed to take in order to even produce this. The strategy is relatively simple. He would utilize homing rockets from the revenants in the first room to kill the cyber demons in the second room. Every time a revenant fires a rocket, there is a 25% chance that it's a homing rocket, which will follow you around indefinitely until it hits something. Luckily for us, there is no limit to the amount of rockets that can be stuck chasing you, which ends up being important as once you drop down into the second room, there is no going back. So if this plan was to work, you'd need to have collected enough rockets to kill every single cyber demon in one go. So how many rockets exactly would you need? Well, again, we can do some basic math. It's hard to calculate exactly how many cyber demons will be left alive at the end, so just to be sure, we'll take the maximum number, which is 848. At 4,000 hit points each, this gives us a total hit point count of 3,392,000. Revenant rockets do random damage between 10 and 80, giving us an average of 45 damage per rocket. 3,392,000 divided by 45 results in a total of 75,377 rockets. However, in practice, you'd never only get this amount, as there would be a 50% chance of not having enough. So just to be sure, you would always want to get more. We also can't use the existing ammo to take out cyber demons, as we'll end up needing that in the first room. If you do try to let monster infighting do all the work, the revenants will end up being destroyed by the barons. Thus, Zero Master's first mission in the first room is to kill everything but the revenants in order to help them survive. After several minutes of combat, he is left with a ball of revenants. At some point, he also initiates infighting in the second room. Here is where the general strategy is performed. Luckily, the first room is huge, which allows Zero Master to circle the revenants going from corner to corner, accumulating rockets. The process takes a bit longer than you would expect because only the front line of the ball can actually add to the rocket pile, as the rockets fired from behind will hit the revenants in the front and detonate. I previously mentioned that this process of gathering homing rockets should take around 6 hours, but it becomes apparent early on that we have a problem. Each rocket emits several smoke sprites behind it, and as the amount of rockets builds up, the processing power required to keep them all updated becomes enormous. After only a short time, the frame rate begins to plummet. I have a pretty good computer, and after 45 minutes of watching Zero Master's demo, it was going at this speed. And after 2 hours, it looked like this, running at about 2 frames per second. I stopped the demo here, but just know that it only gets worse the further it goes. At its worst, the frame rate drops down to 1 frame every 3.5 seconds, which is 122 times slower than the game normally runs. So while it might theoretically take only a few hours to get enough rockets, in practice, the process takes weeks. Yes, weeks. Obviously, Zero Master wasn't going to sit there for an accumulated total of weeks playing a game at 1 frame every several seconds, so he needed to be creative. He perfectly mapped out the required inputs and copy and pasted them into the demo file so that it could play itself. And when I say perfectly, I really do mean perfectly, as any small discrepancy would lead to everything going out of whack and the rockets being destroyed. He needed to make sure the time spent in each corner was exactly the same, or the revenants would start drifting to the side, which would ruin everything. With the run programmed, now he just had to wait. Ultimately, Zero Master would need to let the game run for a total of 23 days before there were enough rockets, at which point he could take back the controls. That's 552 hours of gameplay that happened that no one was there to witness. But we do know that it happened because the demo exists. So if you have a spare month, you can go and watch it for yourself. In total, he had amassed around 90,000 rockets, which should almost certainly be enough. The only thing left to do now is to chaperone the rockets into the second area to explode on the awaiting cyber demons. This process was a terrible one, as the game was still running at 1 frame every several seconds. And this time, autopilot wasn't an option. Zero Master had to literally play the game at this atrocious speed. Mind you, the video of the ending is showing the run at 35 frames per second and doesn't reflect what actually happens when you try to play like this. The video itself also took 25 days to create because the program that creates videos from demo files needs to run through the demo just like the game does. Before going into the second area, a critical part of the strategy is to lure the cyber demons away from the entrance of the room, or they will simply block your path, not allowing you in. So Zero Master spent some time running back and forth along the side wall. After a sufficient amount of time and the cyber demons have moved, it's time to drop down into the second area. As Zero Master herds rockets into cyber demons and the rocket count diminishes, the frame rate begins to slowly improve. But this was pure hell. He had to somehow survive rockets from hundreds of cyber demons while carefully guiding the homing rockets into them, and doing this while playing at less than 1 frame per second. In total, the final 10 minutes of the run took more than 20 hours of physical labor to produce. Once all of these cyber demons have been killed, Zero Master uses his remaining ammo to take out the surviving revenants and finishes the level. The final in-game time was 5 hours, 52 minutes, and 34 seconds. But if you try to play this demo, the real time will be almost an entire month. What I find fascinating about this speedrun is that the level itself isn't even an official release. It's literally just some random map a modder made as a joke in 2001. It was never meant to be taken seriously, and the only reason it became well known was because of how absurd it is. And yet, Zero Master felt compelled to spend months crafting this speedrun. For what reason, we will simply never know. Even he himself admitted that it was probably a waste of his time. Perhaps this is just a microcosm of speedrunning itself. The entire endeavor is seemingly arbitrary, but the strategies, glitches, skill, and effort that goes into it is just so damn cool and interesting to so many people that maybe, just maybe, it's all worth it. And now it's time for some competition and a chance to win a prize. I spent a few hours playing nuts and managed to get a time of 36 seconds on UV speed. If you can match my time, you will be placed into a random draw, and 3 winners will be picked at random to receive $50 cash or a Steam voucher. And the first person to beat the current world record of 32 seconds will receive a $100 bounty. All you have to do to enter is create a demo or video of your run and put it in my Discord. The link will be in the description. Winners will be drawn on the 1st of September and highlighted in a future video. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.